Hello and welcome to Behind the Scenes, GOV-TV's look at the film and television industry in Albuquerque and New Mexico. I'm your host, Tony DellaFlora. It seems blockbuster movies and hit TV shows are becoming almost commonplace in the land of enchantment. Not since the late 60s and early 70s has New Mexico been host to such a flurry of cinematic activity. But of course, the last thing anyone wants to do is take this good fortune for granted. The New Mexico media industry faces constant challenges externally from other states who are competing for the production dollars, and internally from political leaders sometimes who question the value of the state's incentive package. NMedia is one of the organizations that has sprung up to ensure the industry continues to thrive. With me today is Alicia Touche, the immediate past president of NMedia, and Christi Rein, the current president. Welcome to Behind the Scenes.
Thank you. Thank you,
Let's get started. First of all, NMedia, New Mexico Entertainment and Digital Industry Association, so we know everything that encompasses there.
It's a mouthful.
Yes. Let's start with the basics. When and why did NMedia form?
We really formed in, was it 2010, right? Yeah, correct. 2010. It was when Governor Martinez's administration was coming in, and nobody really knew if she was going to be supportive of the incentives. So we formed to be a voice for small business here in New Mexico, and in order to educate legislators and decision makers really behind the scenes about the film industry and let them ask us questions and have a dialogue. So that's really when it happened.
Okay. Christi, how many members or how many people does the organization represent at this point?
Around 2,000 at this time.
Okay.
That's businesses, local businesses.
All right. And when we say local businesses, I'm assuming these are from all over the state.
All over the state, correct.
Okay. And you have a board of directors that runs this. Who's on the who are some of the people that are on the board?
Well, we represent the studios, so Albuquerque Studios, I-25 Studios, Aquila Travel. I'm from El Dorado Hotel.
Okay.
Alicia has her AJK Films. We also have Sandy Levinson, which is Aquila Travel. We have a Communication Exchange, Dave Thomas.
Okay.
Andaluz Hotel.
Andaluz Hotel.
And
2 full-time lobbyists.
And Moss Adams.
Okay. Well, we'll go into, I want to talk about some of those groups individually, but first of all, I want to ask Christi, tell me how you got involved with the organization? Why did you join?
Well, I'm on the hotel side, so I worked at Hotel Andaluz for about a year in Albuquerque, and it's kind of inevitable to get, into the entertainment market. And when I transferred to El Dorado Hotel and Spa, they, also do the entertainment with the Santa Fe studio. So it's just kind of become like a specialty and something that I enjoy doing.
Okay. Now, I understand that Hotel Andaluz became quite a popular hangout for a while, or still is, maybe. I don't know. Tell me about that.
It is still pretty popular with the A-line crew. It's a little different, so it's something, that's kind of offbeat, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah.
Well, did the actors come in and rent the little rooms on this side, or how many do they stay there? Were they
the little Casbahs?
Yeah, the Casbahs. Right.
They have done some filming in the Casbahs.
Oh,
so
have they? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And from what I understand, they're still going strong with that.
Okay. Now I understand that you were out of the state for a while and came back, and that's kind of when you really
I've moved back to Albuquerque 3 times. So I'm from here.
Okay.
So yeah, I've moved back 3 times, and this last time I moved back in 2011. And had left in 2006, and really saw a difference in the economy and in Albuquerque, and it's kind of fun, and it's really a neat thing for Albuquerque to have that. When you go to other places and you say you're from Albuquerque, and they're like, oh, that's Breaking Bad.
Yeah, Breaking Bad is what they always say. Oh, Breaking
Bad, right? Yeah, exactly. So it's it's instead of the Albuquerque, and now it's kind of it's on the map, and so it's just a really neat thing, and especially if you're from here.
Alicia, what was your reason for getting involved with the organization?
Well, I'm a film producer here in town, and Drew Dolan, who was with Titan Development, was also on the board and still is. He asked me to become involved, and so I thought that really it's important that small businesses here have a voice, because we are a great location for the studios and for people out of town. But what people don't realize is there are a lot of small businesses here who rely on the film industry. So, and that voice wasn't being heard up in Santa Fe at the legislature. So that was really the most important thing for me.
Okay, I wanted to follow up on that. Yeah, I was going to ask you, was it because, I mean, there's obviously several organizations that have come and gone, the union is always involved. Lots of organizations that claim to be representing people in the film business, but at the point you guys did this, you didn't think really the voice of the small business people was being heard?
No, really. I mean, the unions have great lobbyists, and they have John Hendry, and they've done a wonderful job of educating. But also, there was a sector which wasn't represented up at the legislature chair at that time.
Okay. What do you see your organization mostly as an educational thing or lobbying organization? How would you describe to somebody what you do?
Well, both of those pieces of the puzzle. It's an education process and the legislation.
And it's also a networking opportunity for people. We put on an event once a year, which the film industry just comes together, and we typically invite either the mayor or a representative from the governor. So it's an educational tool for the legislators. It's a networking tool for the filmmakers.
Right.
And the businesses too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the businesses.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I will definitely. I pluck off of our list all the time when I need anything. I'm like, okay, who's here providing lumber? Okay, I'm going to use them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, one of the things I want to get back to some of the political end of this later in the show, but you said one of the things that's really great about your board is it's bipartisan. So you've got supporters of the governor and other people who maybe were on the other side of the aisle. But tell me how that mix has been working.
It's been fantastic, really, and that I think has been the key to our success. The fact that we do have access to the administration, and that we're not perceived as one side of the aisle. People like to deal with us because we want what's best for New Mexico, and I think all of us are really honest about what that is. So I think that's been our key to success within NMedia.
Okay. I want to talk, you mentioned some of the businesses before that are members, and some of these are pretty amazing success stories, as we talked about earlier. Christi, I think you had mentioned Exchange Communications before. Tell us about their story, what happened with them.
They started in 1998 with one person. And let me backtrack. Exchange Communications, they provide internet and telephone lines for productions. Okay. He has grown to...
This is Dave Thomas's...
Dave Thomas, yes, Exchange Communications. He has grown to over 7 employees. They all make a pretty decent salary over the $50K mark. And he also now has offices in Atlanta, New Orleans, New York, and he also facilitates productions in Boston, Chicago, and he's expanding overseas also. And he's headquartered here in Albuquerque, so anything that goes through those other locations is all filtered through the Albuquerque headquarters office.
Wow. So this is going to be a mega company here, mega corporation
yes.
sometime. That's great. Alicia, you had mentioned I-25 Studios as another example of something that sort of has sprung up and thrived. Tell me a little about what's happening.
So Titan Development had come on and bought the property. I think it was the old HP semiconductor plant, and they were going to demolish it and develop something. But of course the economy tanked in 2008, so what they decided to do was put a little bit of money into that building, and they have made an amazing production facility. And I know Transcendence, which is Wally Pfister's last film that came here with Johnny Depp, I think it was, the budget of that movie was $100 million, and they took over I-25 Studios. And actually, I've shot a movie down in their basement. I shot a little horror film, a little zombie film in their basement. I think there's still fake blood on the bottom. But those guys have really, you know, they've kind of, what's the expression, made a silk purse out of a sow's ear on that deal.
Right. Yeah, I'll hope for continued success up there. What about, I guess what most people don't hear about, excuse me, are the business not directly related to the industry, like production, and how the ripple effects have that gone out to the economy. And Alicia, when we talked before, I think you were even mentioning something as a shoot you did in northern New Mexico and getting your crew fed, how that impacted.
Yeah, you don't realize it. I had 25 people, and we were going around doing our locations and our scouting, and we said, oh gosh, where are we going to eat? And so we just called ahead to this little pizza place that we had seen when we drove by, and it's just outside of Espanola, just north of Espanola. And you know, this woman was so happy. She said, I haven't had this much business in, you know, all month. You know, anytime you guys want to come back. So we fed 25 people there. And you know, it doesn't sound like much, but for a small little cafe up in northern New Mexico, 25 people at one seating, and then we came back, and then actually they ended up being extras in the movie.
See, talk about ripple effects, there you
Exactly.
go. That's great. And she was quite thankful for
Yeah.
you guys showing up there.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't think about it, but it is. It's people going out to eat. It's people getting their hair done. It's productions needing wood or windows or anything like that.
Catering, right.
Catering, hotels. You just don't realize it. Cars, houses. You know, my husband and I moved here from London, and you know, we bought a car. We bought 2 cars. We bought a house, and you know, we pay taxes, and so I think that the ripple effect is quite strong.
Yeah. Gertrude Zachary was another one we talked about before. They were a location for Breaking Bad. I don't know if they had anything before that, but I was over talking to them the other day, and they have Samuel Jackson, Giancarlo Esposito stop in and buy some jewelry, and you know, they do.
Well, I was out with a friend yesterday, and she said that some friends of hers came in from Boston, and they said, we'd like to go to Garduño's, because that's where Walter White went, and they ordered exactly what he had ordered. And Garduño's used to not do the guacamole service at the table, but I guess it was in the show that they did the guacamole service, and so now they've started doing guacamole service again at the table.
That's great.
Yeah.
I hope that's a big moneymaker for them someday. What about the Cleanery is another one, a dry cleaning store that.
Yeah, you know, there's just so many different businesses that benefit from all of the, you know, the direct spend, you know, with the industry. I think in Albuquerque alone, collectively, you know, year to date, they've done about 93 million, and you know, in the state, it's close to 213 million. So, you know, I mean, there's so many businesses that are impacted by everything.
And I brought that up because I think you'd mentioned that Johnny Depp had his costumes cleaned there for the Lone Ranger, and did something like $80,000 worth of business in
That's
dry
the wives' tale. We don't
You don't know about that one. Okay, all right.
That's the kind of rumors that spread in this city.
Okay.
Right.
Well, what about you had mentioned to me about the Lone Ranger when it came to town, and what happened with Hotel Andaluz, how much business they got out of that, for instance.
Yeah, they did quite a bit amount of business with it. You know, just the hotel stays. You know, that's all part of that 93 million. You know, that's kind of collective of the direct spend.
Right.
I know in Santa Fe we saw a lot of that too. You know, during the production and then after production, they did the pre-screenings and just the people that they brought in for that, and this, you know, and then those people that came in, everything that they spent then within the, you know, establishments in Santa Fe and Albuquerque, because they did pre-screenings in both cities.
Right, and I think one of you had mentioned to me that it was just $30,000 for the pre-screening of the Lone Ranger. From people from nights
For hotel, correct, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And that's just the pre-screening, yeah.
Yeah, so people are dropping large amounts of money here. The rental car companies are.
Enterprise is on our board, and they've done just a
okay.
bang-up business servicing the film and television industry.
Okay. And then you'd mentioned Aquila Travel before, and.
Yes, they're on our board also. And they got their first call in 2006 for, you know, a small production in Albuquerque, and really enjoyed the business and did a good job. And it is, you know, referral business. And if you do a good job, they're faithful and will stay with you. And she has been able to sustain her business over the years through the economy and keep insurance, you know, for all of her employees, because it's 50% of their business right now.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
From
That's
one
great.
phone call in 2006.
Wow. Well, if you could give me an idea, I know we don't have specifically numbers of workers, but talk about worker days. How much just direct spending on productions is coming?
Well, it's interesting because the New Mexico Film Office does a great job of posting these on their website, which is nmfilm.com. And so we're going to be, we take the information directly from them. And in terms of worker days for FY13, it was 216,461. So that's, you know, that's how they do their figures, and that's what it was for FY13.
And those are jobs that are paying usually, what, a minimum of $20 an hour or something, roughly, in that ballpark?
It depends. Yeah, it depends really on the deal that the production makes, but you know, definitely above minimum wage for those workers, and then their benefits.
Okay. One of the other things that we talked about, aside from representing the businesses that directly benefit or indirectly benefit, was one of your concerns was that New Mexico didn't end up just as a location, and that you wanted more about that. Tell me about that and why that's important.
Well, I think that you know, so far we have been a fantastic location for Hollywood to come in and spend their money, outside money coming into New Mexico.
Which is always good.
Which
Right.
is always
Always
good.
good.
Which is always good. I think that for us in NMedia, really the next stage is to create an industry which is lasting and can sustain itself. So you know, that's the goal right now, and we're talking to a lot of people on what makes an industry sustainable. But for me, you know, to have producers and directors and writers, which is technically called above the line talent, that live in New Mexico and generate their material in New Mexico and shoot in New Mexico, I think that that's really the key, or you know, the next step in this process.
Okay. How do you see that? You've watched this, you've been here long enough. Is that becoming more of a priority, or?
I think so, definitely. You know, one of the other priorities is getting productions not only in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, which the Rio Grande corridor, but you know, spread them out into the south, into the north, and let the whole state benefit.
Right.
So those are really the two things that we're going to be focusing on.
Okay. And I'm sure that helps in the legislature too, when
Absolutely.
you hit the Demings and the Roswells and the
Yes.
Farmingtons and stuff, and
Yeah.
they can go back and have some reason to support the incentives. One of the other things too, I mean, obviously, since the incentives passed and everything, the state's invested a lot of money in resources, particularly in education. I think there's I don't know how many schools have film programs now. I mean, you see them in middle school at this point.
Right.
Kids are
Yes.
learning how to, I mean,
Yeah.
and they do it better than I do, editing and all that stuff. Why is that? It seems to make sense now that they've invested all this money to keep that going. What still needs to be done? Like there seems to be so many loose ends with the film, and you know, everything exploding at once, and you got to kind of ride herd. But that seems to be an important component of it.
Yeah, I mean, I once heard, and I don't know if this figure is correct, but I think it's probably in the ballpark, that kids in college who are studying film have a retention rate here of like 94%.
Really?
I know. I don't know where, you know, that I heard that bannered around a few years ago. I'm not sure what that would still be. But you know, when you think about it, it's not only the film industry. These kids are studying how, you know, our whole culture is going to work in the future. They're not going to give you a paper resume in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. You know, it's going to be a video. And it's going to tell their potential employer all about themselves, and it's going to take them skateboarding, and you know, what do I do on the weekends, and this is who I am. And so, you know, I think that no matter if these kids go into the film and television industry, they are getting a skill set that is going to help them incredibly. But we would like to retain those kids who are graduating and, you know, not going out to LA automatically, like having an
Right.
industry
Right.
here, they can stay and they can get jobs.
Right.
So that's, you know, that's also very important.
Okay. Well, one of the bigger issues, as you guys are well aware, in the last 3 years has been the financial impact of actually determining the financial impact. Where do we stand on that? Where there was supposed to be a study done? Where are we in that process?
I can talk a little bit to that.
Okay.
So the film office is moving forward with that. I think they are in the process of choosing a company, but it is going to be, I think, a 3-year study, and they're definitely moving forward.
And you guys are totally for that. I mean, you would. I guess we're going to assume the numbers are good, but I mean, you're all for the transparency of this, right? I mean,
I think that that's the key to this industry. Is let's keep it here. Let's let it work. Let's be transparent about it, and let's continue to evaluate it and see what we can do to make it better. I don't think anybody's afraid of that.
okay. Now, what is when you go up to speak, or when your lobbyists go up to speak to legislators and stuff? What's their biggest concern about the program? That those who are not necessarily locked in step here with it.
Well, to create an awareness for to the legislators about the money that they're spending.
Right. Are they concerned about though where it's going still? I mean, without a study, for instance, down or there? Or
It's interesting because we've spent a few years now educating these legislators, and originally they didn't see where the money was flowing. And now they do understand that, and they understand the impact. But most recently, when Susanna's administration came on board, they had a big budget crisis that they needed to deal with also. So I think that sometimes the media, the journal, kind of blows it out of proportion. But these legislators, they get it, but they need to balance everything in the state with the film industry. And I think that we can only respect them for that. So it's just a matter of how the money shifts, how to make it work, how to make sure that everybody gets what they feel like they need. Or
yeah. I think most people, this is my sense, most people in the industry assume that the incentives aren't going to be there forever, and actually it would be a great success story if we didn't need them, right? I mean,
I think all the incentives in the state, frankly, need to be evaluated. There are a ton of incentives that are doled out, that have been doled out for years, that we haven't looked at, and it's astonishing when you actually look at the amount of money that's going out. So I think that everything needs to be evaluated to say, okay, does this industry still need this? What does the film industry need? What does the oil industry need?
Do you think the film industry has been unfairly singled out for that scrutiny?
I think it's really fun for
Tell
people
me what
to
you
report.
really think.
I think it's fun for people to report on the film industry because, if you're a newspaper, you get to put a movie star on the front of your newspaper, and that sells. And so I think it's been and then there's also been some legislators who have been not as much anymore, but they've been very vocal and primarily to get the attention, and they know that the film industry is going to give them that attention.
True.
So
they'll get their 15 seconds of fame or 15 minutes.
Exactly. But we all feel really confident with this industry, so we're not opposed to putting these numbers up or to opening up and talking about it, because it's a great industry for the state.
Let's for viewers who maybe have been on another planet but don't know what the incentives are, could you briefly explain those?
Well, go ahead.
Oh no, you go. We've got to refer to our notes.
All right.
They can be quite technical sometimes.
They are, but television series, and there are some stipulations with that, but if they have at least 6 episodes where each episode has a minimum of a New Mexico budget of $50K, they have a 30% refund.
Okay.
They also, they have to have direct production expenditures. So, and then for other productions, if a project utilizes a qualifying production facility, such as one of our, studios, then they get an additional 5%, and that will apply to resident crew wages also.
So it's really 25%
plus the extra
5 if you qualify.
And in the big picture, in terms of the competitors around the country and around the world, we're not too high, not too low. We're about average, I would say.
Correct.
Would that be a fair estimate? So there's people I think in Detroit, or Michigan, they give away twice as much as we do, and I don't think they have nearly the business anyway. But that's and
Yeah,
obviously that's
good.
not the key to everything. You have to.
I
you
think they
have
have
other
to be
things in place.
sustainable. You know, there's a lot of states that kind of hop on the bandwagon, but there have been a few states that have stayed in there, and New Mexico is one of them. And we do have a middle-of-the-road incentive, but it's perceived as being very stable, so that's good.
Okay. Well, tell me about your efforts. Obviously, you mentioned at the top of the show that one of the concerns was the new governor coming in and maybe not supporting it as much as the previous governors had. Tell me about your relationship with the governor and how you have reached out to her. How's that worked?
Well, I actually sit on her Council for Film and Television, and I'm the chairman of that organization. And she is very supportive of the film industry. I know that there was a lot of press prior to this, but she's been out to LA a few times to meet with the studios and to just kind of do the dog and pony show. In addition to her chief of staff, Keith Gardner, has been a huge supporter of ours.
Okay.
And when Ryan Cangelosi was with her, he was very, very supportive also. So they have created a open communication line, which is really wonderful. And and I think that she's gotten some bad press beforehand, but you know, right now it seems like they are very, very supportive of the industry.
Oh, good. Christi, of course, you can't play New Mexico politics without lobbyists. We mentioned before that you have a couple on staff. Tell me about who is representing your organization up at the legislature and what they've been doing.
Randy Trainer and Debbie Trainer are our lobbyists, and they work with the studio lobbyists also to educate and support the film industry. So they work directly with Nick and Maniatis at the New Mexico Film Office, John Hendry, just kind of supporting and educating the new legislators that came on last year, making sure they're aware of our incentives and what we need to do with it.
So recently we had a bunch of the freshman legislators, and they toured I-25 studios, and this was right when Transcendence was, I think they were like 2 days from wrapping. And
No, they didn't, don't tell me they got to meet Johnny Depp.
They didn't even get to meet Johnny Depp.
Okay.
No, they didn't. But it was like, I think it was 12 to 15 legislators, and of course, like you couldn't even get parking. And there were clothing carts being whooshed around, and I think these people they were very shocked at how many people were there, and just the amount of labor needed to create like a tunnel, or they laid an epoxy floor down. So. And then the interesting thing about so that's what Randy and Debbie do is they also help introduce us to legislators. But their son is an editor in the industry, and they worked pro bono for us for 2 years because they wanted their son to have an industry to come back to in New Mexico. So now we can pay them, thank goodness, but they have been donating their time.
Oh, good. Anytime anybody in the industry gets paid, it's a good thing. We just have a couple minutes left. I want to ask you really quickly, do you have any, does NMedia have any legislation it's backing in the upcoming session or issues you're looking at specifically?
Yeah, we're going to actually probably introduce some legislation this year. We just need to work with our lobbyists on it. But it's it's a constant fine-tuning and evaluating and making sure that we're doing the right thing for the state.
Can you be more specific about what types of legislation you might be looking at? Is it changing the numbers, or is it drastic as that? Or is that?
This is the thing: is the numbers need to be what they are, so that the legislators feel comfortable that they're going to be able to meet their budget. For us, it's about supporting local businesses, local filmmakers, and creating an industry here. So that's really what our legislation is going to address.
Okay. Well, as we wrap this up, I want to ask you one last question. What do each one of you consider some of the biggest issues just facing the industry in New Mexico? What needs to happen to make it keep going?
Well, and I think I've said it a couple times, but just kind of, with the media and some of the things that happen with the press, and especially when we were working through our legislation this past year, just creating an awareness that it is a good thing for the economy, for the state, to have the film industry.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, 3 things. Keep our kids here, and push some production outside of the Rio Grande corridor, and then really make sure that we help in providing a sustainable industry here.
Okay. That sounds like a great plan to me. Let's hope it can continue. And are you working, do you specifically work in, like, with other organizations to do this, or are you?
Yeah, I mean, we have worked with the unions before. We have done things with Women for Film. Who else have we worked with?
Studios.
Yeah, the studios.
Definitely.
You know, they have their own lobbyists who comes in, but you know, there are a few different groups, but everybody's working towards the same goal.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to have to wrap up, but just for businesses, anybody interested in finding out more about the organization, where can they do this? Website or?
Website.
And what is that?
Our website is
www.newmexicoedia, right?
EDIA.
Yeah.
New Mexico spelled out EDIA.
Yeah.
We'll put it on.
.com.
.com. Okay. All right. And is there a phone number people can call or not? Is that?
No, because it goes directly to one of our cell phones, so please don't call.
Okay.
But we do have an email that's on the website too, so you
They
can
get
contact us
with
via
you.
email.
Great. Okay. Good. Well, I want to thank Alicia Touche and Christi Rein for joining us today, and thank you for joining us on Behind the Scenes.